In this video, I'm going to make two sets of square sticky rice cake molds. The square sticky rice cake is an important component in the Vietnamese Lunar New Year feast, and these are going to be gifts for the upcoming Lunar New Year. The molds are going to be made out of maple, and the presses are going to be made from walnut. I'm making 3 molds for each set. The interior dimensions of the molds are 5 inches, 4 inches, and 3 inches, and the sides of the mold are 7/16 of an inch thick. That way they can nest inside of each other. I didn't use a stop block to cut these miters, so after cutting all 4 sides, I'm just checking to make sure that they're all the same length. And they were. Now I'm going to use the CNC machine to engrave Happy New Year on one side of each box. And while the CNC is running, I'll start working on the presses. I'm going to fill the engraving with red epoxy, but before I apply the epoxy, I always like to apply a thin coat of shellac to the wood so that the epoxy doesn't bleed into the maple, and it's easier to sand off that way. While the epoxy is curing, I will continue to work on the presses, and I'm going to cut these to be slightly smaller than the interior dimensions of the molds. These are going to be 4 3/4 inches, 3 3/4 inches, and 2 3/4 inches. This is not the safest practice to cross-cut with the wood potentially being trapped between the fence and the blade, but I'm holding it very carefully. But the reason I'm doing this is that it's the quickest way to get a square because the fence is already set to the dimension that I ripped the boards. Now I'm marking the center of the bottom piece of each of the presses. And then I'm going to drill a hole in the bottom for threaded inserts. And I don't want the hole to go all the way through, so I have the stop set on my drill press. I have a jam nut on a screw that is screwed into the threaded insert, and then with my drill, it's quite easy to insert the threaded insert into the wood. I put just a tiny little bit of CA glue into each hole before screwing in the insert. Now that the epoxy has cured, I'll sand it off. Next, I'm going to glue up the mitered joints of the molds, and I'll do this using tape and glue and clamping it with tape. While the glue is curing, I will work on turning a handle for each of the sets. I'm using a number 10 threaded insert, so I'm drilling a hole in the bottom of each of the handles to hold the number 10 screw. And I'll secure the screw in place with a little bit of epoxy. miter joints are not that strong, especially when somebody's going to be pressing sticky rice into these molds. So I'm adding some splines, 2 splines into each corner. And then I'll make some splines out of some scrap walnut, and I'm sanding this down to be 1/8 of an inch thick. After sanding down the splines, I'm using a 1/16 inch roundover bit to ease all of the edges. And then with a little bit of mineral oil, it's done. So I gotta ask, would you make it?